Dr. Michael McNamara.
To ask the Minister for Agriculture, the purpose of the discrimination between the funding available to male and female applicants aged 41 to 55 years of age under the TMAS scheme, the steps he will take to enable all applicants to access the higher level of funding regardless of their gender, and if he'll make a statement in the matter.
Yeah, thanks, Deputy McNamara. So, as you know, as well as myself, we have a massive cultural challenge over the years in relation to women not being treated equally with men in relation to farm inheritance because of cultural perceptions. It's been the case for too long that if you have a son or a daughter or a niece or a nephew, the son or the nephew is often preferred over the niece or the daughter regardless of interest levels. And that has led to a situation whereby we have about only 13% of our farm holders are actually women. Despite the fact that our figures would show that there's about 70,000, this latest census would show that there's 70,000 women in the country involved in farm management and in actual active farming. That's something I want to address. Obviously, it's something Minister Hackett wants to address as well, there's something the government very much wants to address. So to help break that cultural barrier down, we've taken the unprecedented step and initiative in CAP of allocating a 60% grant aid for female farmers, because we want to encourage that. We want to get the message out there that it's not acceptable that we have such a low level of female farm holders. We want to improve that, and this is a measure that can help do that. It's not a silver bullet, but it's a very clear message. And if you look at across other sectors of the agri-food sector, food business, if you look at the educational courses that have been held around the country, whether it be through Chugask or further education or ITs or universities, and you go in, the representation of women is fantastic alongside men. Great participation. If you call a vet now to come to the yard for an animal in need, it's more likely to be a woman vet, female vet, than a male vet that will arrive, because there's more female vets actually emerging from our colleges than male vets, but has not yet been seen within the farm gate. At farm level, we want to address that, we want to change that, we want to get the message out there that we want to see more female farmers, that it is great to see, and we are going to support it.
Yeah, the issue about more female vets coming out of the agricultural colleges is of course welcome, but the reality is that it's to do with the point system and the fact that often if you look at the very top achievers in entry points, it's females rather than men. And I mean, just because you have excellent points, and I'm not, regardless of whether you're male or female, just because you have excellent points doesn't mean you're going to become an excellent vet or indeed doctor. But I don't want to digress. I'm glad you used the word messaging, because this is about tokenism, Minister, rather than an actual impact it'll have. The idea that a farmer who's deciding who they will leave his or her farm to will say, I leave it to my niece rather than my nephew because they'll get a better TMAS grant, is, I think, ridiculous. But what isn't ridiculous and what is very real is if a farmer leaves their farm to their son, and if they have a son and a daughter who are interested in farming, and they both inherit the farm, they're over a certain age, well then one applicant will get a far greater grant rate than the other. And not alone is that a little bit ridiculous, Minister, it may not be lawful. I mean, the Equal Status Act, I presume, applies to the Departments of Agriculture's activities as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you have any more ideas yourself, Deputy McNamara, in terms of what we can implement, myself and Minister Hackett and Minister Hayden are very open to them. We want to change this. We want to see more women come into farming, and we want to support it. That's why we are pushing the barriers out, and we're getting the message out there strongly, and actually doing it in terms of supports. And anything else we can do, we'll certainly look at and be very open to it. And I want to also update you in relation to the appointment of former Taoiseach and Minister for Agriculture Mary Coughlin, the first Minister for Agriculture in the country, and alongside first female Minister, and it's great now to be serving alongside Minister Hackett as the first female Minister of State, and again at Cabinet level as well. But we've appointed former Minister Coughlin to chair the dialogue on women in agriculture, which will be taking place on St Bridget's Day, 1st of February. And that's going to bring together all stakeholders within the country, all farm representatives, with the idea of actually gathering more ideas and proposals as to how we can make a difference in this. And I look forward to that. And indeed, again, as I say, any proposals or suggestions you have, our ears are fully open and we will look at driving them on.
The first suggestion I'd have is that you end the discrimination regardless of its motivation. I do think that we have the times when a farmer would leave his farm to his eldest son, regardless of whether the eldest son wanted the farm or not, or indeed leave it to a son over a daughter. I think most farmers now are relieved if any of their children, and if they have no child interested in farming, any nieces or nephews are interested in farming, is a relief to them, because it's a difficult life. It's not very profitable. Obviously, it's hugely profitable in the dairy sector. That faces its own challenge. But for the rest of farming, I think commensurate to the hours that people work, there are certainly far better incomes to be obtained elsewhere. So I think most farmers are very relieved if any of their children are interested in farming, or any of their, if they have any successor who's interested in farming. I really think the days of oh, well, you know, primogeniture or leaving it to the eldest son are well and truly over, and that's a good thing. I of course welcome the fact that your department is bringing people together to discuss this, but maybe it's coming a little bit late. I mean, I think farmers have moved on, frankly.
Just before the Minister concludes, just Deputy Durkin, briefly.
Corla, I would expect that equality legislation would prevail in all assistance that is available, and that equality legislation would enable equal participation from male and female farmers, because if the grant aid varies between the male and female, obviously there's a slight challenge to the equality legislation. So I would hope that that can be overcome.
Okay, to conclude.
I suppose, look, I would say as a female farmer, there isn't equality. That's the problem. There isn't equality on the ground. Female farmers own 13% of the farms. And OK, there's cultural elements there. Farms aren't being left to girls and daughters and nieces and so forth. But it's difficult. There are amazing female farmers out there. But it's difficult to be a female farmer, because you go to the mart and it's 95% men. There's, you know, it can be a difficult place to go to. You can go to a knowledge transfer group. It can be challenging. And I've spoken to women who've gone to knowledge transfer groups who don't go anymore. So what one element of that is we're putting together like female-only knowledge transfer groups, because that's what we have heard from female farmers. And I think for us not to respond from what we hear from female farmers would be us not standing up for that. And I think we are trying to make it a more equal space, and these are many of the mechanisms we're trying to put in place to do that.
We might leave the last word to the female minister. Thank you.
Well, we are trying to bring that equality into the system, and that's what we're working hard to do.